Hello, hello, hello. So, the most important thing we have to realize as a young man, and I put it on my, I guess you call it website, it's actually a link, Jews on Fire, Baruch Ruman. Amazing story. You have to check out the story. But effectively, he went up to heaven. There are many people that had near death experiences. His particularly, I would call it, powerful and very direct to God. Other people don't hit that same level. And he was shown, as many people are shown, he was shown the future. He was shown his life. And I asked him, as others have, so did you see the coming of the Mashiach? So he said that he saw up to the coming of the Mashiach, but afterwards it was taken away. And interestingly, one of the things he saw was that there would be a great explosion of technology which would allow us to live, as the Rambam says, in a time of prosperity, that the only kind of Asa Kol Olam, the only thing we'll be engaged in is to know God better, because we won't need to be, as in the olden days, just to get water. You had to go to the river. There was so much time necessary for survival. But, and this is the crux of the matter, so he said that he came to the realization that Mashiach could come at any time. Now, I want to say why that's an important realization. You can say, oh, well, that's obvious. But it's not so obvious. You know, there's a famous story where, I forgot exactly who it was, a person went, his father was a great scholar, and he went to study by a Rebbe. So there was a classic kind of Jewish scholarship. People would sit, they'd study, and they'd learn, and they'd know the law. So he was asking, why did you need to go to the master? What did you not know? So he says, I needed to know that there's a God. So his father called over. They had a Jewish lady, cleaner, working in the house. He said to her, is there a God? She says, of course there's a God. So this young man, who later became a master himself, said, she says there's a God. I know there's a God. The difference between knowledge, knowing, and saying is quite simple. If I said to you, here's a story from, beautiful story, that there was once a drought in Israel, and all the wells basically were dried up. And what would happen is all the Jews would come to Jerusalem, and we're talking millions upon millions of people. They obviously needed a lot of water. And there was a lady, very, very wealthy Roman noble lady, and she had tremendous storehouses of water. It's one of the things people would store in the olden days. So Rabbi Akiva went to her and he said to her, I would like to buy your water. And she says, okay. When are you going to pay back? He says, by this and this date. She says, who's the guarantor? So he didn't really have a guarantor. So he said, Rabbi Kiva wasn't just a slouch. He said, the guarantor will be the creator of heaven and earth. He will be the guarantor. She says, okay. She was obviously a righteous woman who believed in God. And as the evening came, towards the evening, first of all, Rabbi Akiva was quite worried because he didn't have the money. And second of all, she was quite worried because she wanted the money for all that rain. And so she went to the seashore, and she said, okay, God, creator of heaven and earth, you're the guarantor of this loan. Make it happen. So suddenly a little treasure chest came up, it washed. And what happened was that far away in Rome, one of the emperor's daughter, one of the daughter of the emperor, one of his daughters, I don't know, she had some kind of little fit, a hissy fit, and she took this little treasure and she threw it into the water. And that treasure ended up at this noble woman's feet. So the story continues, but this is the main point of the story. So the point is the difference between kind of relying on someone. In Hebrew, in fact, my cousin David told me this, that the Hebrew word for bitachon, which is like faith or trust in God, comes from the word betach. Betach means you're secure. So what's the difference between somebody, for example, the Rebbe would always tell people to believe in Mashiach. Mashiach is coming. So once someone said, okay, we know Mashiach is coming, what are you kind of making the whole thing out of it? So the Rebbe said, tell me, if that guy asked you to loan him $100, would you loan him? He says, of course I'd loan him. If he said to loan him $100 till Mashiach comes, would you still loan him? In other words, you can know something, but you don't really have faith in it. You don't really have trust. If you trust something, if you know it 100%, then you have no worry, you have no doubts. So the same thing is with the concept of Mashiach. See, we live in a physical world, and we think that physicality is a real reality. But physicality is just it's like the hard drive. It's a computer. The computer is nothing. It means nothing. What functions in the computer, the programs that you have, that's what's important with the computer. And so the same thing is in life, that it's the functionality, it's the things that we do in this world that matter. And those things basically are all boiled down to three realms. They're either positive, they're either altruistic and they're godly and they're good, or they're kind of selfish, they're just self-interest, which may not be bad, but it's not good either. Or they're, God forbid, cruel, they're actually out of anger, out of malice, etc., etc. So the thing is, it really matters, because what we do, the more good we add to the universe. So if you look at the universe from a spiritual perspective, not from a physical, because physical, whether you're doing good or bad, it's all the same physicality. But from a spiritual perspective, it really matters. You know, when we give extra money to charity, we're doing good, we're being altruistic. That really makes a difference. And there's no question, if we all were altruistic, even for a single second, the whole world would become the Messianic redemption, because the evil can only suck from our actions, from our negativity, from our anger. So right now, we really have a chance to bring the Mashiach, the long-awaited redemption that people have been waiting for thousands of years. It's going to transform the world forever. And really, it boils down to dedicating your life to God. There's no reason not to dedicate your life to God. There's nothing in this world, unless you are completely illusional and delusional, that is worth pursuing. The only thing that's worth pursuing is to dedicate your life completely to God, and His wisdom should guide you. And as we know, if you want to get direct divine wisdom, you can ask God, and the first thought that comes to mind is His answer. And really just allowing God to become the personal God, the guide of your life. And in this way, we bring the Mashiach immediately.